prominent personalities and qualified panelists in the environment. Now, I would like to give you a brief introduction about Sir. Sumit Chander, Sir, an advocate, is a practicing lawyer at the High Court of Delhi. He is a graduate from Kurukshetra University, got enrolled with the Bar Council in the year 2002. He is expertise in civil, commercial, and constitutional cases. It was Sir who had filed the PIL, which resulted in establishment of 18 courts and 22 commercial courts in Delhi. He is frequently invited as a legal expert on various news channels such as India Today, Aaj Tak, NDTV, etc. He is also invited to various legal conferences as a speaker on various law topics. Sir has also been appointed as an arbitrator in various commercial matters by the High Court of Delhi. Sir has been awarded the National Law Day Award by Justice K.G. Balakrishnan, former Chief Justice of India, for his erudition and vast experience, which played a pivotal role in the development and recognition of international mediation and arbitration. Sir, it's a great honor for us to have you today with us, and now the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. It's always a pleasure whenever I get a chance to talk to students. So it's really a nice opportunity. So thank you very much. But before everything, let me thank Himanshu and the opinionators who have given me this opportunity to speak to all of you. Now, I would honestly say that I love this philosophy behind the opinionators, which they've just said, and I quote again, which is there in their website also, that we must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. I think it's a wonderful quote, and if this is the philosophy, I think they're doing a great job. So keep it up. And I'm not only happy to see these thoughts behind the Students Club of the opinionators, but I'm also, I wish that these philosophies should have come up, and it has now come up. May they grow and do much better in life. They may, and I sincerely hope and wish them good luck for this. So here I am today to discuss about the dealing with rising racism and xenophobia. Now, friends, personally, it is my belief that there is no such thing as people of different race. There is just one race, and that is the human race. But having said that, this topic, I would still say, is very pertinent in today's time, as we can see racism growing not only in India, but also globally. But it would not be fair on my part to begin the talk on racism without quoting the famous words of Sir Martin Luther King. And I'm sure all of you must have heard this when he had said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by their color, but by the content of their character." So, what is racism? Well, let me put it this way. If a minority is treated differently, discriminated, or disadvantaged because of cultural or physical characteristics, then it is racism. But do you know the background of it, how it all started? In fact, very interestingly, the Oxford English Dictionary's first recorded utterance of the word racism was by a man named Richard Henry Pratt in the year 1902. Now, Pratt was rallying against the evils of racial segregation. He had said, and I quote it for you, he said that segregation or segregating any class or race of people apart from the rest of the people kills the progress of these segregated people or makes their growth very slow. Association of races and classes is necessary to destroy racism and classism. This racism became more prominent after the World War. In fact, after the First World War. It was after Germany's defeat in World War I that the country's deeply ingrained anti-Semitism was successfully exploited by the Nazis, which seized power in 1933 and implemented policies of systematic discrimination, persecution, and eventual mass murder of Jews in Germany and in the territories occupied by the Germans. In fact, in North America and the apartheid era South Africa, if you all remember, racism dictated that different races, mainly divided into blacks and whites, they felt it should be segregated from one another. Now, they felt, have their own distinct communities, develop their own institutions and churches, schools, hospitals, and in fact, it was termed unnatural for members of different races to marry each other. So much was the segregation. In fact, we all remember Nelson Mandela's fight against racism, against apartheid, which will always remain a source of inspiration for the entire human civilization. So let me share with you a very interesting story of Muhammad Ali. Now, you all know Muhammad Ali, the first, in fact, the American heavyweight boxing champion who won a gold medal in the year 1960 in the Summer Olympics. Now, Muhammad Ali's story is very interesting. In fact, in one of the interviews, he shared his experience on racism. And I'll share that with you. Muhammad Ali, the famous boxing champion, he said that as a child, he would ask his mother, "Mother, why is Jesus white? Why in the Last Supper, all the people on the table are white? Why all the angels are white? The Tarzan is said to be the king of the jungle in Africa, but Tarzan is also white. Tarzan talks to animals in Africa, but the African people living there for so many years can't talk to animals. The president lives in a white house, not a black house. Santa Claus is also white, but the little ugly duck is a black duck, and the black cat is a bad luck. If I threatened you, I would blackmail you. Why not whitemail you?" So these questions troubled him as a child. In fact, he said that when he had won the Olympics gold medal in the year 1960, he proudly went to downtown with his medal on. Now, downtown is a place where normally black people at that time were not entertained. But now that he had won the Olympics for America, he felt that he would be given due respect. But unfortunately, when he went to a restaurant in downtown and he asked for coffee, the lady in the restaurant said, "Sorry, sir, we don't serve Negroes." He was shocked, and then he gave a very witty reply. He said, "It's okay if you don't serve Negroes, I don't eat them either." So there are, racism can take place in different forms in different places. For example, in South Africa, there is xenophobia from black South Africans towards Nigerians. Africans from other African countries. In fact, Trump, if you remember, Donald Trump, during his 2016 presidential campaign, called for a construction of a 30 feet high border wall that looks good from the north side and is difficult to climb or cut through across the border of Mexico. And he said that he will make sure that Mexico pays for it. Now, these are just some of the examples for xenophobia. There are many such examples. In fact, the wall was just one part. President Trump has made efforts to restrict immigrants from mostly Muslim countries. He ensured drastic reduction in refugee admissions. He has denied asylum seekers from Central America. In fact, Trump's policies have transformed immigration to the United States. Now, these tremendous steps taken by President Trump are a stark example of xenophobia. This is another very interesting example you would all remember. It was this hashtag Black Lives Matter. There was an entire movement on this. In the year 2012, I think it was February 2012, there was an American teen by the name Trayvon Martin who was shot dead. And after 7 months, his killer, I think it was George Zimmerman, who was acquitted. But because of this, in July 2013, the movement had begun with the use of the hashtag Black Lives Matter. The entire social media was full of it. This movement widely spread across America after two more Americans were shot dead in the year 2014. People demonstrated against the deaths of numerous other Americans, African Americans, by the police actions or while in police custody. Today, social media plays a great role in bringing forward the incidents of racism. That is why I feel the opinionators are doing a great job in organizing such webinars and raising such issues that are important and need to be highlighted. Issues that won't otherwise be known and shall die down with time. Let me share with you another story. Do you remember the story of Gandhiji when he was in South Africa and he refused to comply with the racial segregation rules on a South African train, and therefore he was forcibly ejected from the train? What had happened was that Gandhiji had traveled to South Africa in the early 1893. He had gone there to practice law under a one-year contract. He went there, he settled down in a place called Natal, where he was subjected to racism and South African laws that restricted the rights of Indian laborers. Now, Gandhiji later in life recalled one such incident where he said that he was removed from a first-class railway compartment and thrown off the train. This was his moment of truth. From there on, he decided to fight injustice and defend his rights as an Indian and as a man. When his contract expired, he decided to remain in South Africa and launch a campaign against the legislation that would deprive the Indians of the right to vote. He formed at that time in South Africa the Natal Indian Congress and drew international attention to the plight of Indians in South Africa. In 1906, the government sought to further restrict the rights of Indians, and Gandhiji then had organized his first campaign of Satyagraha, or mass civil disobedience. After finally 7 years of protest, he negotiated a compromise with the South African government. So all these stories, they matter. They show how these racism were there, how they were dealt with. But just because I've quoted them, and most of them obviously internationally, let me tell you this: the instances of racism are not just abroad. We in India are no less when it comes to racism or xenophobia. Let me give you a few examples that have taken place in our country. Well, if you remember in the year 2014, soon after the Delhi elections, the Delhi law minister, and I'm sure you all know the name, I'm not going to quote him here, he had led a group of people on a midnight raid. And this raid was on a group of Congolese and Ugandan women who were physically attacked and humiliated in Khirki village, Delhi, for being involved with immoral and illegal activities. This is just one instance. If you remember in 2017, some African students were attacked and beaten by a vigilante mob in Greater Noida. They were charged with selling drugs. Now, once this incident took place, media raised this issue And sadly so, one member of parliament at that time defended the government and said that if we were racist, why would the entire South, the Tamils, the Keralites, the Karnataka, the Andhra, why would we live with them? They are also black in color. Or why do they live with us? Was this, look at the attitude of this member of parliament who we have elected. But these are the kind of feelings of racism which are embedded somewhere inside these people. There are a lot of instances of racism even during this COVID-19 period. Do you know that even now, during this time of COVID-19, there have been several cases of rampant discrimination against the Northeastern community? In fact, in some places, they have been spat upon, denied entry into shops, expelled from rented apartments, actually asked them to leave the apartments. They were staying there for so long, but suddenly after COVID-19, they were asked to just go. They were abused on the grounds of internalized racist assumptions around the virus, thinking that these people are just Chinese people. In fact, some Northeastern, and these are true stories. In fact, some Northeastern women from Nagaland have described how every member of their family was confronted with various racist comments. One woman said that when she booked an Ola, Ola cabs, the driver asked her, "Are you from China? And are you responsible for bringing COVID to our country?" Another Northeastern woman shared her experience, saying that when there was COVID outbreak, she was sick, she was unwell, and one of the friends asked her, "Oh, you got your country's disease?" And when she told him, "No, I'm not from China, I'm from India itself," he started telling her, "Oh, she's being too sensitive." These are instances. Very sad. Another experience, let me share with you. There's a lady, again a Northeastern lady. She said that when her mom was flying from Bangalore to Chennai, a passenger sitting next to her asked her, "Are you from Wuhan?" The passenger who asked her, "Why are you flying to China?" And her mother, this lady's mother, explained it to him that she was going there for a meeting as she is some very senior level position in a company. The passenger gave us such a dumbfounded look, saying that she's shocked that anyone from Northeast could attain such a high position. Friends, now we have ministers who are Northeastern. We have people at very senior position in companies who are from Northeast. They deserve a respect, but unfortunately, even till very recently, a few weeks back, there was an incident where a Northeastern woman was barred from entering the Delhi Golf Club just because she was told her attire, whatever she was wearing, she said, the golf club people said that because of the attire they are wearing and the look she has, she looked like a servant. And that is why they refused entry. How sad can this be? These are stark examples of racism in our country. These are instances of casual racism. They may look like isolated instances, but all these instances have led to such systematic racism and institutionalized the validation of such practices. It is now firmly rooted in a large structure which makes abuse a daily affair for these Northeastern women. In fact, you all must have heard this, where Northeastern women are many times branded as easy. How sad can that be? How can one treat such patterns of structural violences as isolated incidents? This is wrong. This must stop. So, do you know that because of these instances, there is already a proposal before the parliament, which is pending now, and it is based on the Base Barua Committee report. You know what are these proposals before the parliament to make new laws. The Baysborough Committee report now has put before the parliament to decide upon inserting two new provisions in the Indian Penal Code. These provisions, once the law is amended, the act is amended and the law is passed, will be two sections. Namely, one will be section 153C and other will be section 509A, an extension of the already existing provisions. And it would deal with offences of promoting enmity on the grounds of religion, race, residence, or language. But let us first understand what are the existing laws in our country which protects people against racism. First and foremost, it is our constitution itself. Friends, Article 14 of the Constitution deals with the right to equality. It says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before law or equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. I repeat, Article 14 says of the Constitution of India that the state shall not deny to any person equality before law or equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. Every citizen has that fundamental right under Article 14. Then there is Article 15(1), fundamental rights, which says that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any one of them. These are enshrined in the Constitution itself. Article 15 is very clear, and these are our fundamental rights as a citizen. That the government itself, the state, shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any one of them. And here is a law minister who himself goes, the law minister of Delhi, who himself goes to the Khidki village and is found in a clear-cut case of racism towards these people. So our constitution, though it gives the protection, overall protection, are there any specific laws also which protect? Yes, there are. One very important provision is there in the Indian Penal Code itself, which is the criminal practice law. Section 153A of the Indian Penal Code is very clear. It says that whoever promotes disharmony or feelings of enmity, hatred, or ill will on the grounds of sex, religion, place of birth, caste, etc., will be punished with 3 years imprisonment. So already there is a provision of law which clearly mandates under the Indian Penal Code that you will be punished with 3 years imprisonment if you tend to promote disharmony or feeling of enmity, hatred, or ill will on the grounds of sex, religion, place of birth, caste, etc. Then there is section 295A, which states that whoever with an intention to outrage the religious feelings, insults the religion or religious belief of any class of people will again be punished with the imprisonment of 3 years. In fact, 295A, and I'll repeat this section because there is an interesting story behind it. I'll tell you what that is. How this section came into being. So section 295A of the Indian Penal Code says that whoever with the intention to outrage the religious feelings, insults the religion or religious belief of any class of people will be punished with imprisonment of 3 years. So how this section came into being enacted? Well, friends, The story is this, that in the year 1927, a book called Rangila Rasool was published. I wish I was in a live conference hall with you where I could know and ask you questions, how many of you have heard it. But unfortunately, online, I cannot ask you this question. But do write in your comments and let me know if anyone has heard about this story, about this book called Rangila Rasool, and how this section came into enactment in 1927. So in the year 1927, a book called Rangila Rasool was published. This book concerned the marriages and sex life of Prophet Muhammad. Obviously, this ignited religious sentiments, and on a basis of a complaint, the publisher was arrested. But later on, he was acquitted in the year 1929. And that was because there was no law against insult to any religion. The publisher was later murdered in the court by one Ilm Uddin, who was then honored as a Shaheed. Interestingly, since the book did not cause enmity or hatred towards any religious community, it didn't violate Section 153A. And it was then that the Indian Muslim community demanded a law against the insult to religious feelings also, and the British government enacted Section 295A. So do you see now that over half a century ago, we built into our constitution itself the human rights and fundamental freedoms as important principles of our country. Our constitution prohibits discrimination on any ground, including race. The Indian Penal Code prohibits dissemination of ideas that promote disharmony on any ground, including race. Our independent judiciary, an ever-vigilant media, and an active civil society are each day working towards attaining equality and non-discrimination and removing racism from our country. So friends, we are already working towards removing racism. We need to be aware of it, we need to discuss it, we need to fight for it, and immediately put our protest wherever and whenever we find such an incident of racism happening before us. So when this racism happens, how do we deal with it? Again, there are a lot of philosophies and stories behind it. But let us go by some very basic things. I don't know, again, I wish I could have asked how many people, how many students from Northeast are present in this. But anyways, please let me know in your chat box if there are. First and foremost, react towards the issue. You must react, but react towards the issue, not towards the person. In fact, I would at this stage talk about a nice proverb by Gautam Buddha. Buddha used to say that when someone fires an arrow on you, you don't try to find out who fired the arrow, or why did they do that, or what they are all about. You simply concentrate on getting the arrow out. That is why you must react. You must get the arrow out, but react towards the issue, not towards the person. And whenever you react, react calmly. Be kind. Sometimes people make a racist remark because they don't think, or just thoughtlessly they say it, copying whatever they have heard before. Being kind to them, being calmly reactive to them might just wake them up. And that waking up is necessary. I'll give you an example, what we call the teapot treatment. Again, another very interesting story here. So what had happened was, an Aboriginal person was having lunch with a friend in a restaurant when he heard two elderly ladies talking about Aboriginal people in general, without realizing that these two Aboriginal people were sitting in the next table. The conversation was unfortunately less than distasteful towards the Aboriginal people. So this person felt very angry. He felt like shouting at them, abusing them for talking such things. But no, he didn't. He controlled himself and reacted calmly. You know what he did? He offered to buy them a pot of tea. He asked the waiter to send them a pot of tea on that table, and along with that pot of tea, he left a handwritten note on the receipt itself after making the payment saying, "Ma'am, please enjoy the tea. Compliments of the two Aboriginals sitting in the table next to you." The ladies, rightly so, had not realized this earlier, but after receiving the tea and that note, realized that these people were sitting next. They felt embarrassed and assured that it won't ever happen. So the same thing, look how they dealt with it. Calmly, but they did speak to it. They did not just ignore it, but how beautifully they brought it to their notice that what was being said by these ladies was wrong and should be avoided. So there are so many ways to deal with racism, but it's important for people to understand overall that God loves every color, and that is why He has created so many colors. How can you have this racism effect on the basis of color, which is so rampant, not only in India, across the world? But whenever such racism happens with you or with somebody else, you must speak up. In fact, research has found that speaking up is good. And it is good for three people who are around that time. One is the bystander, who may support as it would give him a lasting satisfaction of having done something. Number two, it would obviously be good for the victim of the racist attack, who would feel a sense of belonging and less damaged by the abuse. And lastly, it would be very good for the offender himself, as the bystander's action would disapprove that the prejudice he had in his mind is not a norm, and therefore in future when he comes across a situation, he would think twice before reacting in the manner he did. So you must speak up whenever you see racism happening, either with you or around you. But whenever you do, please be calm and react calmly. People who are racist think that they have got more support in the society. And if you don't say anything, they will continue to think that. It is only if you do stop them and bring it to their notice that they would start to reassess. So please, again, and I'm repeating this because it is important, that you must react. Don't stay quiet, but react calmly. In fact, one person challenging a racist comment in a calm and measured way in a public place, say for example, he has challenged a racist comment in a train, in a bus, at a party, at work. His challenging of a racist comment in a calm and measured way in a public place will have a profound influence on everyone around that time witnessing such an incident. Of course, if things don't work out even in a polite manner, then definitely you must take help of the law. You must call the police. You must document their actions by, if it's an incident that is happening in your presence, record a video. Today you have social media to spread. You have mobiles to record it, always ready in your hands. You can take screenshots of posts on social media that is racially against you or racially against anyone for that matter. Feel free to file the complaint before the police. But in all, you must stand up to a racist activity happening with you or around you. Like in the words of Angela Davis, who said, in a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. And let me end by quoting Sir Martin Luther King. I keep quoting him a lot. I love his quotes. And he had said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So with this, I will say goodbye. And I hope you all have benefited from today's talk. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for this informative session.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have some questions in the chat box.
Okay, I will try and take them up.
Yeah. So one question is by Mundun Mamin. He says that, sir, what can be done in the education system in India to remove racism from education in the Indian textbooks and Indian schools?
See, the education system in India, there are still these instances which keep coming up. There are a lot of instances which must be put as an example, without quoting anyone, of course. But yes, there has to be a general education chapter on racism and how to deal with it. Because this is today, we are not talking about students who are only in India. We are talking about students who are Indians and traveling abroad. We are talking about people who are coming from abroad and studying in India. That is why a lot of these schools and colleges already have student exchange programs. So there are already some things in place in our education system, but some more should come up. Yes, next question, please.
So there was one question with us which says that is feminism and racism related?
Sorry?
Is feminism, like as in today's day, feminism is also like a good topic to talk about. Is
Right.
feminism and racism also related?
See, any kind of a discrimination, which I told you in the beginning itself, how I would define racism. If any segment of society, generally a minority, is treated differently, discriminated or disadvantaged because of physical characteristics also, or cultural characteristics, it is racism. So yes, when we are talking about feminism, but we are not talking about, again, feminism can be taken in a very different sense also. Feminism also talks about women rights and women empowerment. It is not a discrimination when we talk about feminism. But yes, if you're taking feminism as a disadvantage, then definitely a disadvantage or a discrimination against women, it is a kind of a bias or a racism. Yes.
Sir, Ayush is asking that does racism depend upon intention? There's a commonly word used nigger. It's freely used as a slang in songs. When a white man calls a black individual nigger, it's racism. But when two black people call each other nigger as a slang or jokingly, it is not racism. So does it depend upon who is using such words or is there double standards?
So, see, Ayush, the law itself, when we talk about criminal law, mens rea is a term that means the intention. Intention behind anything matters in a criminal offense. And if you look at the provisions of law, which I had spoken about, section 153, it says that whoever promotes disharmony or feelings of enmity or hatred on the grounds of sex, religion, place of birth, caste, those will be an offense. But if there is no intention to promote disharmony and you are talking of a word, your intention is not there, then of course it won't be an offense. And racism, of course, it won't be covered there. So, intention in law, the mens rea, is very, very important. Without intention, the offense is not made out.
So, last question for today. Vikram asks, how instantly can we oppose racism if it's occurring nearby us?
Speak up. I had very clearly said, speak up calmly, politely, but you must bring it to the notice of the other person. Like I gave you that the teapot example. How these people brought it to the notice of these ladies by sending them a teapot with a note. And listen, you're not realizing, but there are people around you who are listening, who you're talking about. So, but you must speak up. It's very, very important. And if it goes to a different level, it becomes much more uh, strong or violent. You must call the police immediately. Whenever an offense is taking place, it is your duty as a citizen of the country to call the police. So first, try to stop it politely. If it doesn't, despite your speaking up, then you must involve police or government authorities to stop this incident.
So, I guess there is one last question which Shraddha is asking, that don't gender-specific law lead to racism in a way?
See, Shraddha, I had already answered this when I said now again, what gender specific law you're talking about. When laws are made, they are made for the benefit of the citizens. They are made with a certain intention. And like I said, for any offense or any thing to take place as an offense, mens rea is important, the intention is important. But how can any law, even a gender specific law, lead to racism? Yes, it's a point of view. I can understand where you're coming from. It's a point of view. You may say, listen, this gender specific law is discriminating against a minority in a certain manner. Yes, if that is so, if there is an intention which clearly a law is passed where you feel that, yes, there is some kind of a discrimination against the minorities towards the negative, feel free to challenge it. That is where the Constitution of India comes into the picture. That is where your right of equality under 14 and 15 of the Constitution comes into play. Fight it out. Approach the court, file a PIL, get it removed. Yes.
Okay, so that's all the questions for today. Thanks a lot, sir, for your time. The session was really very informative and you made it really interesting with the stories and quotes. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thank you.
To all the participants, I would like to inform you that the video and the session will be available on YouTube, as well as please fill the feedback form. Your certificates will be available to you once you fill the feedback form. Thank you. The link for the feedback form is given in the comment section. Guys, you can leave the meeting once you have filled the feedback form. The certificates will be mailed to you.